they were like little Eloise girls running around the hotel for 21 days. But the day they left for school, that first day for their new schools, and they were in separate buildings on similar campus, my mom went with Malia, I think I went with Sasha. And or maybe it was the other way around, because I remember seeing Sasha's face in the back of these big limousines, because your kids have as much security as you do. My kids traveled to school every day with a motorcade of 3 cars, no less than 8 armed men and women. And that's how they went to school every day. So this was their first day. So I see this motorcade of black cars taking off in front of the hotel. And it was Sasha's face that stays with me, but her little face was pressed up against the window. And that's when I thought, what on earth am I doing to my kids? How are we going to get through this so that these girls turn out normally on the end? So our approach is sort of like the approach you take with toddlers, you know, when they're learning to walk and they are bumping into everything and falling down all the time. You know, a little kid will hit their head on the corner and then look up at you like, is it supposed to hurt? And their reaction is directly connected to your reaction. So if you're like, oh my God, are you okay? Then they cry. And if you're like, you're okay, they're like, okay. That's been our approach. Crazy things happen to our kids and like, oh, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Somebody's stalking you, you're fine. You're fine. SWAT team on top of your building while you're playing? No, girl, that's not an issue. You'll be fine. Just keep going. Go to school. You'll be okay. This is normal.
When did they stop?
They're like, okay.
When did they stop believing you?
You know, as they got older and they went, this is crazy. Mom, this is crazy. You know, they're the ones who live in the real world every day. Our kids do, right? Because Barack and I, we live in the bubble. You know, we're not going to school, we're not going to practice, we're not playing other teams at other schools, we're not trying to shop for a pair of sneakers or go to the hairdresser or go to a party or a dance. They are in the real world trying to be normal kids every day for the last 8 years, and they have done it well. I'm so proud of my girls. They have a poise and a maturity that they had to develop very early, much earlier than they would normally have to. So we've tried to just keep their lives normal and keep them going. Is there a potluck? Okay, here we come with the motorcade to the potluck. Malia was like, can you tell your Secret Service not to yell at my friend's parents? You know, I mean, it's weird kind of conversation.
Yeah, they were yelling back there.
They're yelling. I was like, get out of the way. It's like, Mom, that's my teacher. You know, so you try to make things feel normal for them and pretend like all this isn't happening. Because the truth is that what I've learned in these years is that home is where you make it. And it doesn't matter what the house is. It can be on the 74th and Euclid where I grew up, or it can be the White House. But it's what we do in our home that makes our home real. It's the dinners, it's the conversations, it's the discipline, it's the values. And that doesn't change just because your father's president, or because you drive around in a motorcade. The expectations of being decent, compassionate people who work hard and will add value in this world, that doesn't change. They just happen to be the daughters of the 44th President of the United States. So get on with it. You'll be fine.
One thing that is said about you over and over again is that you are an authentic person. What does authenticity mean to you? How do you interpret something like that?
What is authenticity? For me, authenticity means that the Michelle Obama you see on stage is the same Michelle Obama that you'll see in the photo line that we just did, or when I leave here and I'm with my staff, or I'm at the potluck, or I'm at home, or I'm walking my dogs, or I'm with my girlfriends. It's, you know, I am who I am no matter where I am. And it's made being First Lady for the past 8 years a lot easier because I don't have to pretend, you know, and because I'm comfortable with myself, my own story, my own voice, it's easier for me to make other people feel comfortable. Because if you're pretending and I'm pretending, then the whole interaction isn't real. But if I come to you with a level of truth and just openness, whether it's a hug or I hear you, I think people sense that. And sometimes that's missing in politics, because I think people think they have to be something to be a politician, and folks can smell that. You know, they can tell when you don't mean what you say and you don't care about what you say you care about. It just shines through. It's not something you can hide.
One thing you really miss about being in the White House, and one thing that you really love about not being in the White House.
There's a lot I miss. The people. I mean, it was harder to leave on that day than we thought. Because leaving is just as quick as coming. I mean, you know it's coming, but you know, they changed furniture during the swearing in. I mean, that's how quickly it is. That morning of the inauguration, we were asleep in our beds, and then we were gone, and new people came in. And you imagine, the White House was where my children have spent most of their formative years. It's you know, somebody pointed this out. I've lived in the White House longer than I've lived in any house that we've had other than my childhood home. I mean, really, that's crazy. So, there are people who are there, you know, the staff, who we see every day. And you go from seeing people every day and hearing about their lives and giving them hugs and joking with them, and then you never see them again. They're on to the next family. So that moment of transition, right before those doors opened and we welcomed in the new family, our kids were leaving out the back door in tears saying goodbye to people. They had a sleepover because, of course, on Inauguration Day, because my kids are so normal, they're like, well, 8 girls are going to be sleeping here because it's our last time. And we want pizza and nuggets, and it's like, really? Really? So we had like a bunch of the girls, the crew there, and they're all crying, you know, because they've grown up in the White House and they've grown up with these people. So, it was
a lot to miss.
It was emotional. And then those doors opened, and it's like I didn't want to have tears in my eyes because people would swear I was crying because of the new president, and I was.
Now you forgot one thing that you love about being under the White House. You talked about your new home and having a yard and the doorbell.
It is the freedom. It is the you know, yeah, Sasha had her window open last night. I could see it from the garden, and I remember the one time they tried to open their windows in the White House. And their windows face sort of the real public side where the protesters are, because they sort of got into thinking, you know, they like to have their windows open because they like the sound of the protesters, you know? They're like, you know, I'm really curious to hear, why is he so angry? And it's like, yeah, he's got a couple of points. And so, you know, they found it soothing, right? In springtime, the warm weather would come in, the yell of protesters outside. It was just sort of soothing to them. But the first time it happened, there were so many calls and, Dad, close the window, Sasha closed her window, because it is kind of dangerous to have the window of the president's child open to the public. So I had to tell her, sorry kid, no fresh air for you. And they're all bullet and bomb proof too, so these are heavy windows. And it's like, how did you even get these open? That's what kids are. Like, what are you in here opening the windows for? But Sasha had her window wide open the other night, and I just looked up and I thought, it's okay, you know? Now she's going to be upset when mosquitoes come in, but that's on her.
It's on the way.
But yeah, it's the freedom. the freedom to be a regular person. I mean, we traveled the world, and I've seen sometimes not even the lobby of the hotel. You know, there are times when I travel, I don't even know what floor I'm on. I make this joke to my agents. I was like, you have to tell me where I am, because if they shoot you down and I have to get back to the hotel, I'm like, what floor? What floor? I don't know. I never knew. You know, we'd spend our lives in freight elevators, and, you know, it seems glamorous, but when you travel, you're working. You know, and the expectation is the president doesn't get a vacation. You know, the president doesn't get time off. The president doesn't get to do anything. Don't have fun and be the president. Don't look like you're having fun. You know, so, you know, we were very conscious of everything we did. You know, how much traffic got tied up, whether we would go to dinner or not, was based on how it would inconvenience other people, because it would cause real inconvenience. So we didn't do a lot of things, and we had to think about optics and how it made people feel. And, you know, that's a heavy thing, you know, every day to think, even, you know, what you wear, what you're going to walk out into, what you're going to say, that it has meaning and impact. And if you take that responsibility seriously, it's a heavy load to carry for 8 years. And quite frankly, while it's been an honor to serve, and you know, it's been a privilege being your first lady, 8 years is enough. It's a good chunk of time. I'm not trying to be funny, but it is. And being able to make decisions like regular people, to do the things that are solely in your own benefit, or maybe helps your kids, you know, those were things that we often didn't do. You know, our kids weren't necessarily the first, their future wasn't necessarily the first thing that we thought about, because we were thinking about the American people, the country, the world. So, you know, it's nice to be able to revert back to a level of normalcy. While we're always thinking about this country and the world, for sure, it's good not to have the weight of the world on your shoulders.
You're really not going to like this next question.
What's that? I didn't answer it? You didn't hear an answer to this next question? I know what you're going to ask.
You do know what I'm going to ask. It's a question many people asked you as you were coming on. Are there any political ambitions in your future?
There are people who stood up, and then there are people who didn't. And that's what politics is. You know, it's all well and good until you start running, and then the knives come out. Politics is tough, and it's hard on a family. It's hard on the individual. It's worthwhile. It's important. But as I've said this many times before, I wouldn't ask my children to do this again. Because when you run for high office, it's not just you, it's your whole family. It's my mom, it's my brother, my nephews and nieces. Their lives are impacted by this, and, you know, I wouldn't ask that of them again. I think they've done their service. Plus, there's just so much we can do, much more we can do outside of the office, because we won't have the burden of political baggage. You know, my hope is that maybe some people who couldn't hear me before around issues that were important and real, whether it's childhood obesity or women's health, because they thought I was the devil, or whatever people were told about me and didn't know me. There are parts of folks in the country who do not like us. They don't like me. They don't want me to run, and I hear it. But there are things that I can do to help people. And maybe, just maybe, if we walk away from this mud fight, they'll be able to hear some of the good things that I have that can help everyone, hopefully. And then we can do more for more people.
Mrs. Obama, our time together has come to a close.
See, that's just this section. Everybody else is was like, okay.
Yeah. Got to get to that seminar.
Next seminar, next
Thank you so much for being with us. The best to you in the future.